The studio lights of The Tonight Show glowed warm and golden that evening. The audience was laughing, the band was playing softly, and Johnny Carson sat behind his desk with his familiar smile. But when John Wayne stepped onto the stage, something felt different. The applause was louder than usual, longer too. People weren't just greeting a movie star, they were welcoming a legend. Cowboy hat face. Johnny stood up to shake his hand. "Ladies and gentlemen," Johnny said gently, "the Duke himself." John Wayne smiled, tipping his head slightly, but his eyes carried a quiet weight the cameras couldn't hide. They sat down together. At first the conversation was light, stories from film sets, horseback riding mishaps, and the old days of Western movies. The audience laughed often. John Wayne laughed too. But then Johnny leaned forward slightly and asked softly, "Duke, after all these years, all these roles, what's the hardest thing about being John Wayne?" The studio suddenly felt still. Wayne looked down at his hands for a moment. His strong fingers, hands that had held rifles on screen, saved towns in countless films, and shaped one of Hollywood's greatest legends, now rested quietly on his knee. "The hardest thing," he repeated. Johnny nodded. Wayne's voice lowered. "It's knowing folks think John Wayne never gets tired." A few people in the audience shifted in their seats. "They think he's always strong, always riding in to save the day," he continued. "But sometimes a man just wants to sit down and be Marion again." Johnny didn't interrupt. The audience didn't breathe. Wayne looked out across the studio lights. "You spend your life playing heroes," he said softly, "and one day you realize people forget you're human too." A woman in the front row wiped her eyes. Johnny leaned closer, his voice almost a whisper. "Do you regret it?" Wayne shook his head slowly. "No," he said, "not 1 minute, because those stories, those films, they gave people hope. And if a man can do that in his lifetime, he's done all right." The audience began to clap quietly. Wayne paused again, then added something unexpected. "But I do wish I'd told my family more often how much they meant to me, while I still had the time." The applause faded into silence again. Johnny looked at him, not as a host looking at a guest, but as one man looking at another who had carried a heavy life with dignity. "Well, Duke," Johnny said gently, "I think America knows exactly what you meant to them." Wayne smiled. Not the strong cowboy smile people knew from the movies. A smaller one. A real one. "Thank you, Johnny." The audience rose to their feet. For the first time that night, John Wayne didn't look like a legend. He looked like a man being remembered and finally understood. Glowing star.